Hi, and welcome to Modern Teen Therapy. My name's Janet Edgett, and I'm an adolescent psychologist. I practice outside of Philadelphia. I wanted to talk today about situations where parents will say to you, "My God, I have great advice. My kids don't take it. I don't know. Try and just want to share my wisdom, or every time I try and say something, she shuts me down." Well, here's three reasons why teenagers might look somewhere else for solutions and why they might turn down their parents' advice. And these are things that you could talk with parents about. It could also, some of these reasons also explain times when kids stick with a bad decision, even when they know it's bad, or they insist on being right, even when it flies in the face of reason. Parents say, "You're just being difficult, you're just being defiant." Probably not. I think often they're just trying to save face after painting themselves in a corner, they're trying to avoid the feeling of like, okay, you won, I lost, or giving in. So I think we can make it easier for kids to change their minds if we are more mindful of how they're feeling. They need to save face, and if we could take care of some of that with them or for them. Reason number one, why teenagers may not take their parents' really great advice. I think we all can recognize it's kind of something. It's embarrassing sometimes to change your behavior or point of view, like when everyone's watching and waiting for you to do it. Think about kids whose parents have been trying for months to get him to change his approach, let's say to studying for tests. If he continues to insist that his way of doing things is fine, or everyone's overreacting, he's kind of stuck with the same old outcome: poor grades, angry parents. If, on the other hand, he does change his habits, it can easily feel to him as though he's admitting that his old ways were wrong after all, after maybe 2 years of saying how good they were. Years ago, I counseled parents whose son had been refusing to join the family for dinner. This boy couldn't stand that his dad would always try and turn his concessions, the boy's concessions, into the dad's own personal triumph. He was kind of a finger in the face kind of father. And I remember saying to the father, I said, "You know what?" I said, "Look, I actually think your son would appear at the dinner table if he were certain that you wouldn't do a victory dance across the kitchen floor." Parents got it, and I cracked up. But that's the kind of conversation I might have with parents who, just don't recognize that kids painted himself in a corner and they need to help him save face. And one way they could do that is by not grandstanding when the kid changes his or her mind. Okay, reason number two. I think a lot of teenagers who were struggling with an issue of some kind, they're unhappy, they're as anxious about it as their parents might be. But some of them get stuck on the same track and they don't listen to advice because they've convinced themselves that suggestions from adults are contaminated. So if you think that the teenager you're seeing or the parents you're working with, the teenager they're talking about might feel this way, you can coach them on saying, "Sometimes I think you actually like my ideas, but feel like you can't use them because I was the one who came up with them first. Is that ever true?" And then maybe you can coach the parent to say, "What is it about both of us having the same idea that just feels kind of weird to you?" Now, this is language a lot of parents aren't accustomed to using. It might feel weird. I would say it might feel weird coming out of your mouth, but it is really helpful for a teenager to hear something like that for you. Use your own words, your own language. But the idea here is to say, if you have that feeling that your kid is not going along with an idea because it's been contaminated by adults, say, "I think this is it." Not defensively, not angrily, but just with curiosity. See if you can get a conversation about it. Here's reason number three. Some kids are so driven to be right, they won't give up a point working. At those times, I think not being wrong becomes more important than doing the smart thing. Again, saving face thing. It's pride. We've all been there. And I think from working with parents, I try to get them to empathize with their teenager when that happens. And I'll say to them, tell your teenager a story where you painted yourself into a corner and went down with the ship rather than recant and feel humiliated, because I think that's what's happening right now between you and your daughter. I think too often parents think that it's their success stories that inspire their kids. They come out with, "Well, when I was a kid, this was what I did and it worked out for me." And no kid's going to do well with that. The takeaway's not going to be, "Oh, well, all right, I'll try that too." It's going to be like, "Yeah, fine for you. It's really different now," or "I don't care," whatever. I think it's really hard for kids to identify with these kind of success stories when they themselves are struggling. So they get defensive and maybe dismissive. I think a much better story that a parent can tell is one where their vulnerability shows through, where their kid can really see that they get it And I think the kid will appreciate that the parent's not trying to cheerlead them through their predicament. That's what I would say to the parent. I think she will hear something different from you. You're not trying to cheerlead her. You're not trying to make a point. You're not trying to point out her flaws or what she do wrong by sticking with her opinion. And I would say that alone paves the way for your teenager. It just makes it a little easier, maybe for her to admit being wrong the next time it happens. Kids feel really respected when adults around them appreciate what it means for them to change their behavior when they're instructed to do so. And I think a lot of adults overestimate the role of information and advice in influencing change in kids and teenagers. I think they underestimate the role of a relationship, or the role in the relationship, I should say, of creating a context in which it feels safe for a young person to make changes or to exit a situation. More often than not, kids do want help for their situation, but I think they just need to know that they're not going to pay a price for accepting it. And when we can help parents understand that and communicate that to their teenager, that can be really helpful for everyone involved in the family.